Bro, he hits so hard.
Broke that orbital bone.
He's one of those guys that, like, you know, some guys just have power, right? But he works on it all the time.
That's what I say. He's the most, in every fight, he's the most improved fighter. He always goes back and fixes anything he saw wrong.
The era of the greatest Mexican boxers has ended. That's what all the boxing fans thought in the early 2010s. Indeed, Erik Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, all the best Mexican fighters had passed their prime and had to retire soon, and there was no worthy replacement. In fact, the successor was already groping his way to the top, and in just a couple of years, he was the talk of the world. In a short time, the formidable Saúl Álvarez not only replaced his predecessors, but he was also able to eclipse their greatness and climb to the top of the pantheon of boxing fame himself. Friends, in anticipation of Canelo's fight, we suggest you remember his 10 best knockouts. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel so you will never miss any upcoming videos. Here we go. 10. Luciano Leonel Cuello. Let's go back to the days of very young and inexperienced Canelo. It was 2010 and the future champion was only 20 years old, but despite his age, he had a huge amount of knowledge and experience on his side. Even as a boy, he won the prestigious Mexican championship, and when he became older, he went into professional sports to earn money. Saúl managed to fight at different weight classes and with different opponents, but by the 10th year, he moved to the super welterweight division where he got the chance to compete for the WBC silver title against quite strong on his level Luciano Cuello with the record of 26-1. You've all heard the phrase beaten with one left hand, right? Well, Canelo showed how it should look like. From his first steps onto the ring surface, he aimed at his opponent's liver, and as soon as the Argentinian opened up, Álvarez dismantled his body with a precise uppercut. Cuello, who hadn't even had time to get a taste of the fight, was already on his knees and struggling to get up. Then, in the second round, Saúl already sent the guy to the ground with an uppercut to the head. Scared for his life, Luciano went into deep defense and managed to survive for a while, but in the second half, he started to let one punch to his body after another, and the good heart of a referee took pity on the bloodied poor guy. Yes, there was no clean KO here, but such a battered liver is a rare sight. Number 9. Kermit Cintron. The first time Canelo could fight for the belt of one of the major boxing organizations in 2011. That day he defeated the Brit Matthew Hutton by unanimous decision and brought his record to unimaginable 37-0. Apparently the kid was going to repeat the record of his great compatriot Julio Cesar Chavez, who was close to 89-0 at one point. Well, that's a fantastic goal, but to achieve it, he had to go up against not the weakest opponents, like Kermit Cintron. The Puerto Rican was IBF champion several years ago, but hasn't held the belt since. Álvarez tried to turn on the aggressor regime right away, but the experienced Kermit decided to work with technique. Jab, bounce, jab, jab, bounce. That was the plan in the Puerto Rican's mind, and it worked pretty well at some moments. Cintron's jabs were quick and precise, and the Mexican didn't respond to anything, but it later became clear that he was just accelerating. In the fourth round, a flame burst into the champion's heart, and he began to pound on his opponent's liver and did it so skillfully that he forced him to put his hands down. He immediately punished him with a nuclear overhand.
Speed right from Cintron, right hand, hurt Cintron, and down he goes.
Kermit sat up in surprise and then rushed into the fight again, but the overhand found him again before the bell and almost left him sleeping on the ropes. Going into the fifth round, the Puerto Rican looked lost and Álvarez took advantage, destroying him in a barrage against the ropes.
Good combination by Álvarez, and the referee Hector Afua stopped it.
Number 8. Jose Zito Lopez. With each new victory, Álvarez looked more and more formidable. The young, powerful Mexican has been on the 40-fight winning streak for a long time now, and he has already defended his WBC super welterweight belt 4 times, and he wasn't going to stop there. At the same time, he showed that he could combine his style to score points with the wild pressure of a natural-born knockout master, and no one could yet figure out the puzzle of Alvarez's style. An attempt to do it was given to the considerably more mature Jose Zito Lopez, who up to this point had never claimed the belt of the main organization. Jose decided to dishearten the champ, and right after the bell rushed at him with such fury that the ring began to shake. He gave a great series of fiery punches, and sometimes I think he did not even know where he was hitting. Because of his madness, Alvarez went into a stupor for a while, but then he put the gas pedal to the floor and showed Lopez what the real fury was. With only a few punches to deliver, he sent the challenger to the canvas, and then did the same thing in every round up to the 5th one. But even though his liver was torn to shreds, Jose still tried to snap back and occasionally hit the champ, but eventually missed a critical number of punches and the bout was stopped. Number 7. Rocky Fielding. Saúl Álvarez became most famous in his time after 2 close fights with the legendary Gennady Golovkin. If the first time the Kazakh champion was most likely robbed by a draw, then Canelo was able to find the keys to Triple G and defeated him by split decision, winning 3 whole belts. Right after that, the red-headed puncher announced that he would not be making defenses but would be moving up to the welterweight division to continue his career. The Mexican's decision had different reactions from the fans, but there was nothing they could do about it. The first fight in the new division was scheduled just 3 months after the rematch with Golovkin, and Canelo's opponent was the homegrown champion Rocky Fielding. Before the fight in the locker room, Alvarez's coach clearly got into his mentee's headgear and turned on his liver focus mode. Otherwise, how to explain so many blows to the body? The champ was blatantly charging for brutal body punches, and there was nothing Rocky could do about it. Despite his tremendous height and reach advantage, Fielding preferred to fight the Mexican knockout artist on the short range, which was his biggest mistake. Gaining unlimited access to his liver, Canelo sent his opponent to his knees twice in 6 minutes, and in the 3rd round he waited for the right moment and this time exploded to the head.
Had a real go here with the big hook. Massive shot this time.
Fielding ended up on the canvas, from where he got up with a smile, but then another painful attack from a punch to the liver brought him back down.
It's over. That is it. It's over.
The referee felt sorry for the guy and signaled the end of the fight. Number 6. Liam Smith. With 2 confident victories over experienced and still dangerous veterans, Alvarez confirmed his legitimacy in the eyes of the promoters, so his next fight was declared the title one. This time fate decided to test the jaw of the undefeated Liam Smith. The young Brit, who had a reputation of being a good knockout artist, held the WBO belt he had won just 3 fights before, beating the inexperienced John Thompson. His confrontation with the explosive Alvarez was supposed to be the jewel of the Texas tournament of September 17th, 2016. Liam was no slouch at all and quickly showed that he knew how to box with Canelo. The Brit came out at extremely close range, verging on a clinch, and threw 2 to 3 punches, then hiding behind the block. Meanwhile, Alvarez ate his punches and then used all his strength to counter combinations against his opponent's hands. Smith controlled the fight and kept the victim in his net, trying to keep the Mexican at bay, but he was already developing his best shots of the game. In each round, Saúl found a moment, and in the second of the gap, he threw a bomb into his opponent's body, and it paid off after the equator of the fight. A loaded body punch went right through the champion's body and took his breath away. Liam was able to get up and even try to work as before, but the damaged body gave no rest, and soon the Mexican finally beat the liver of his opponent with a fantastic hook.
Well, this is why people are so anxious. There's knockdown number 3.
Number 5. James Kirkland. September the 14th, 2013 is the day that Canelo would remember forever, because that was the day he faced Floyd Mayweather as an unbeaten and fully confident prospect. The legendary Money had the exact same 44-0 record as Alvarez, but in the ring, it turned out that they were not even comparable. Having suffered the first defeat in his career, the already former champion took it with dignity and lowered the level of opposition for a while. After winning 2 fights in a row, the Mexican soon signed a contract to face James Kirkland. Even though the American's stats were pretty good, 32-1, he has yet to be remembered by the general public with any notable achievements. Remind me please, which of these two is the real Mexican? The thing is, Mr. Kirkland seems to have mixed up the schools of boxing and decided to work in the classical manner for the representatives of that country. James entered the phone booth and used precise hooks combined with uppercuts. His punches looked slow and sluggish, but Alvarez took them in the face and there was nothing he could do about it. However, on the breakup, Saúl was already showing masterclass and catching the sluggish opponent on his guns. Already in the first round, the former champion scored a knockdown, but in the third round he was able to push Kirkland to the ropes and exploded him in the head with a right hand. The single fatal blow gave Saúl's opponent not only a concussion, but also a sound sleep.
Continues to land. There's a perfect straight right hand, and surely.
Number 4. Caleb Plant. As of 2021, Canelo was no longer just a talented Mexican guy with big ambitions. In just a few years, he had fought dozens of tough fights and developed into a modern-day boxing icon. In his 30s, Alvarez had time to try on 4 different titles, and he had 3 belts specifically in the welterweight division and was only 1 belt away from complete beauty. The IBF World Champion was the undefeated Caleb Plant, known by the nickname Sweet Hands. A strong-willed boxer with a tough fate, he dug his belt out with his teeth and was going to fight for it till the last drop of blood. Throughout his career, Saúl had blatant problems with fast and agile opponents, and Caleb Plant fits that description perfectly. The American was essentially doing the same thing that Sergey Kovalev did in his time, working as the second number and shooting Canelo with a jab. But unlike the aging Russian, Plant hit harder, faster, and his defense took on the best punches of the Mexican style. Alvarez had very few decent punches, but he was pushing hard and slowly reclaiming his territory. Already in the 9th round, the Mexican was on top, but he didn't want to win, he wanted blood. Canelo kept pressing Plant against the ropes and smashing him with horrible singles, until in the 11th round, Sweet Hands ended up on the canvas for the first time. The finish was in the air, and the king of Mexican boxing found it, sending Caleb into a monstrous KO with a 1-2.
Caleb Plant, and down goes Plant, and this one is over.
Number 3. Sergey Kovalev. The fight against a multi-time world champion and the first Russian to make the cover of the ring, Sergey Kovalev has long been on Canelo's team's mind. Before the Mexican had his duel with Golovkin, there were many rumors about this fight, but they went different ways, and now after 2 years, their ways crossed again. This time Alvarez was already boxing at super middleweight, but the Crusher was fighting at light heavyweight, and it was decided that the Mexican would simply move up in weight. Saúl himself admitted that this fight could be the toughest of his career, but how did it really work out? The bulky but speedy Sergey was moving very briskly around the ring and was throwing literally 100 jabs in each round. He wanted to keep the distance and not let Canelo get too close to him, but even that kind of work was not enough. Kovalev's punches didn't have any power, while Saúl's were full of power. He was undoubtedly hitting less often, but he was much more powerful and precise, and as a result, he was winning most of the rounds. Crusher made some attempts to escalate, but they were stopped by the young talent, and in the 11th round, Canelo broke his opponent's defense by an extremely precise hook, and as the final dish, he knocked out Kovalev with the right hand.
Caught him with the left hand and is balanced completely, and the referee waves it.
The Mexican joined a list of boxers who had the champion title for 4 different weight classes with this amazing victory. Number 2. Carlos Baldemir. In the beginning of his career, Canelo fought mostly compatriots and South American natives. Of course, among those many fighters, there were always go-through opponents, but sometimes really serious challenges were brought to the talented fighter. Veteran Carlos Baldemir can be counted among those without a shadow of a doubt. The stats aren't the most remarkable numbers, 45 wins and 12 losses, but during his performance, Carlos managed to be a champion and fought several legends, including retiring Arturo Gatti. Now he was going to siege the prospect. Baldemir decided it would be a good idea to take the young genius by force and actively chase the Mexican for the first 4 rounds. Carlos was going at a high pace and was using a lot of combinations and left hooks, but it was of no use because his feet were in a different dimension. Saúl was simply too fast for the Argentinian, and when he began to slowly decline, the champion became more active. If in the beginning of the meeting he was using his right hand for the most part, now the customary front hand punches were Álvarez's main weapon. With each second, he was hitting harder and harder, and Baldemir apparently got tired of it and offered an open exchange. Fatal mistake. An awe-destroying left hook caused the veteran's body to fall flat face down.
He's ready to go! And he's gone! Can that 39-year-old? He's not going to get up! And it is over! Canelo Alvarez gets the...
Number 1. Amir Khan. After flying away from Floyd, Alvarez regained his confidence on average boxers for a while, but it didn't last forever. Soon the Mexican idol took the fight against the sports legend Miguel Cotto, who was on the decline. The young lion outboxed the old predator and then went after an even more significant figure, Amir Khan. The British athlete was an Olympic silver medalist and in the professionals could boast a title in 2 major organizations. But that was all in the not too distant past. Now Khan was in a gradual decline and was not as dangerous as before. Many today do not remember how good Amir Khan was, and in his best years he can be compared with Manny Pacquiao. Even in this fight, when he was already on the decline, he showed the highest level of boxing skills. He was seriously outclassing Alvarez tactically and technically. Khan moved very skillfully, avoiding Saúl's best shots, as well as constantly throwing super fast combinations of straight hands and hooks. Amir made the Mexican look like a clumsy bear at certain points in the encounter, while he himself looked like a fluttering butterfly. The Brit stayed out of his opponent's reach most of the time, but gradually Canelo cooked up a trick that would play a crucial role in this fight. The former champion kept punching Khan's body all the way through, and in the 6th round he showed a micro movement for a liver punch, and at the same time he exploded to his opponent's jaw with a right uppercut. The former champ collapsed into a terrible knockout and spent the next few minutes trying to get his limbs moving again.
Tricky style.
Did you like this video? Then make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel. And what tough Canelo knockouts do you think have been undeservedly neglected? Which places in this list could have been replaced? Be sure to share your opinion in the comments.